Hey YouTube, how you guys doing? My name is Kyle, you know me as Dragonmar, and welcome to a new video. Today guys, we're going to be talking about consistency, how to be consistent in Valorant, and how you can do it through confidence. I know this is one of those subjects people ask me about all the time. I want to make a video on it, kind of give my thoughts, explain my reasoning, and I also want to give a big shout out to everyone who has been part of this community and who has been watching me on Twitch as well. We just became partnered on Twitch after about a month and a half of waiting on our application. We've only been streaming for 4 months and we've been full-time for a little over 2 weeks. So I just want to give you guys a big thank you, a big shout out to everybody. Kind of a dream come true here to be partnered. That purple check mark looks damn good. And I just want to say thank you to you guys for making it possible. I really do appreciate it. And with that being said, let's jump into the video. So like any sort of problem, we need to really identify why it is so hard to be consistent in a game like Valorant. And once we answer that question, hopefully it can give us a better understanding of sort of how we can solve for that problem, like solve for X in an equation. Well, part of the reason why it's so hard to be consistent in Valorant is because of all of the variables that change from game to game, even from round to round. Now, I want you guys to think of a game like Counter-Strike, right? In Counter-Strike, you know that there's going to be 5 players on each team just like Valorant, but the agents don't change. Everybody is just this sort of base character. Everyone can buy flashes and smokes, but in a game like Valorant, that's just not the case. You don't know if one game you're going to run into four duelists or 3 sentinels. You don't know how they're going to smoke. You don't know if they're going to even have a smoke agent or if their duelists are even going to play their roles. You have no idea what the team composition is going to look like. So that's part of the equation when we talk about consistency. And you have to think about, also who is on your team in these games, right? Your team one game might be making comms, everybody might be talking, having a good time, helping each other. Then you might get a toxic game or a completely quiet game. And that completely changes the dynamic of how the match is going to go. You also have to think, even if you're playing the same map, by the way, from a game to game, you might be playing in a different spot on a different agent. Think about how crazy that is. And when you started thinking about like sort of the possibilities, right? When you start multiplying the possibilities together and you just think of, oh my gosh, like to get like the same, like very similar games back to back is so incredibly rare, even on the same map. Because let's say I play Omen on split one map and maybe I'm playing an A on ramp, and then the next map my team wants me to play mid or in heaven, or on split again I'm actually playing, let's say, Cypher, and I just go sit on B site the whole time on defense. Every single game is so different from one another, and when people come to me and they're like, Kyle, I'm not consistent, I don't know what to do, I'm like, dude, me too. Like, there is so many things changing from game to game and even round to round that it makes it very hard to stay consistent. Now, I think that I have sort of figured out one thing that's been working for me recently in my games to help me sort of stay in Immortal and play better in Immortal as well, which you guys are going to see with my gameplay that I'll be putting out soon, is I've started to sort of employ a more confident type of gameplay, and that's what I want to talk about. Okay, so now I want to talk about confidence and how you can be consistent through confidence. So one of the really interesting things for me is that as I've started to play the game more since going full time, I have started to see sort of my skill increase, which doesn't sound true unless you've been watching the whole time. I think people are actually starting to see it too. Now, there are a few things that I've noticed about sort of going from game to game, maybe games where I wasn't feeling very good, maybe looking at the matchup, the agents, the map, maybe even who's on my team. I was like, God damn. But I started thinking, and I realized something, is that a lot of my most inconsistent games, a lot of the games where I play the worst, are games where I just lacked any confidence in my play style and where I lacked confidence just in my team overall. So I started thinking about this more, and I realized that when people ask me about how to be consistent and why they're so inconsistent in their games, I sort of started to see this trend where people are doubting themselves a lot. And they're going into matches already thinking it's a loss based off of team comp or the ranks of people in their games. Guys, do not pay attention to ranks, seriously. Oh my god, the amount of Smurfs in Valorant is unbelievable. I have no idea if the Diamond 2 I'm playing against is a Radiant Smurf. Generally, they are. So, you know, just stop paying attention to that and essentially, you know, giving up before the match even starts. That's a huge, huge problem. But one of the things I realized is that once I started to get my confidence back, and once I started taking fights, and being confident in my shot, and once I started, you know, making call outs and IGLing and being confident in what I was saying, I started realizing that I suddenly became a little more consistent, and I didn't have those huge swings from game to game where one game you're going, you know, 20 and 10, and then the next you're going 5 and 15, right? And it got me thinking, you know, while I was streaming, I was like, huh, I've been playing really well all day today. You know, yeah, of course I'm losing games. I'm not going to win all the games. I remember I started my stream recently. I had 2 overtime losses in a row, but I felt great with both of those losses. I was like, damn, I played really well in these games. I'm really happy with that. You know, even though I lost, like, I played great. And I started thinking, what have I changed recently? Well, first and foremost, I've started playing the game more. And I've started actually practicing, you know, DMing, really working on my aim. And I started thinking, okay, well, that kind of improved my confidence. I feel pretty good taking fights with just about anybody in this game, whether they're Radiant, whether they're pro, you know, it doesn't matter who. I feel pretty good about myself. And then I started thinking, well, what was different before? And I realized, oh, well, before I looked at a Radiant and I was like, oh, shoot, like, this guy is going to dump on me. I got no chance. And maybe I didn't always project that outwards, but I used to think it internally. And it wasn't until I started kind of believing in myself, believing in my team, you know, hyping my team up, you know, giving compliments, getting everybody's spirit going. I realized when you boost the confidence of yourself and of your teammates, it really does impact their performance. And that was one of the sort of realizations I've had recently, is that every time someone comes to me talking about consistency, I now start thinking about confidence. You know, is this a player who is confident going into their games, or is this somebody who perhaps is lacking in confidence, and is that potentially affecting their ability to be consistent from game to game? All right, so now I want to talk about a few ways to sort of boost your confidence to help your consistency. And these are kind of cyclical. They might get a little repetitive, so just bear with me here. But essentially what I'm talking about is you want to try to limit the amount of change from game to game if possible. I know this isn't like the best advice, right? This is my opinion, but essentially what I'm saying here is I think that it's really important to find a few agents to play and get very good at them. Find a main, essentially, because once you find a main, you put yourself in every single situation you can ever be in this game, and you start understanding how to win in each of those situations. Then you start never getting surprised by what the enemy does. You always have a solution for it. And that's such a huge part of consistency, is having that confidence in saying, I know that an enemy could do this, or this with this team comp on this bomb site, and I know I can react this, or this way. It's worked for me here. It's not worked for me there. I'm going to try this time. Having that confidence, having that sort of library in your head that you can dig through, be like, okay, so this happened here. I know they did this. He pushed here. I did that. I flashed here and I won this, right? Knowing that all comes with having those agents you play all the time. If you're somebody who switches agents every game, from duelists to supports to sentinels to, you know, initiators, whatever if you're switching every game, think about it seriously. Do you guys lack consistency? Do you lack confidence? Because that might seriously be impacting it if you're somebody who constantly switches agents all the time. Now, next, I want to talk a little about where you play on each map. This is one of those things where if you find yourself on a bomb site a lot, you tend to get pretty good at playing it, especially on, I'm talking about defense here, obviously. This does allow you to switch up the agents you play as long as you're very confident in that spot on the map. Some players are very strong holding mid. Some players really like anchoring sites. Other players like playing a more aggressive spot towards a bomb site. If you're one of those players, if you can play there consistently, like I just said, you start learning all of the scenarios. You start thinking in your head, okay, I know that with this sort of a team comp, they can do this here. How can I react? And sometimes you'll be on a different agent, which is fine. You'll just think about the utility you bring to the table with that agent and how you can use it in that position. I think what I'm getting at here, once again, is by playing in the same places, just like playing the same agents, you start getting that sort of library of, okay, this happened, I know I can do this now, or this happened, you know, last week. I remember it, and I know I countered it with this, and it worked. And once you start building those sort of connections, you start being able to have the confidence to go into every game knowing how to win. And that's why it's so important that you understand that a lot of consistency just straight comes from your ability to be confident in yourself and where you're playing and understanding what is possible. And now, finally, I want to talk about what's helped me be more consistent. I know I've talked about it a little in my videos. There's a few main things, right? With going full-time, I have more time to play the game. So, honestly, playing more has made me a more consistent player. I tell this to everybody. The more you play the game, the more consistent you're going to be, as long as you're putting the time in and trying to be constructive with your time. There is no way around this. I am sorry. I just do not understand how you can play 2 days a week spread out in like a Monday and like a Friday and expect to just grind and climb through the ranks unless you're just naturally talented. I mean, you do have to put time in. Like any other skill, this game takes time to get good at. You have to put the time in. And I think that that is something that is finally really showing itself in my stream and my own abilities, is that the more time I put in, the better I am getting at the game. And I just think that's very, very true. Now, another thing that's helping me be more consistent and more confident is that I've started to warm up in deathmatch no matter what. And I'm even playing deathmatch on days off where I'm not necessarily playing ranked. I'll play off stream. I'll do some DM just to keep myself sort of, how do we say this, in sort of game ready shape. You know what I mean? Like I'm ready to go in at any point. And part of the reason for this is I've always lacked confidence in my shot. It's just always been the case. So the more time I've been putting into deathmatch, the better I sort of feel going into my games. And I think that's made a huge impact for me moving forward. Another thing that I think has actually been benefiting me a lot recently is watching the tournaments with the pros playing, First Strike in particular. I've been doing some watch parties, watching off stream as well. I think that there is really a benefit to watching professional players play the game and seeing how they play. I'm starting to pick up on some tips, you know, sort of getting the positioning down more. All of these things are things you really can implement into your game. And now, of course, this is going to be tougher for lower ranked players, but like I've been saying, I really have always felt strongly that there is a serious advantage to watching professional players play, to watching better players play any game. I think you can learn something regardless of what rank you are. So I highly encourage you guys, if you haven't been watching these tournaments, maybe flick one on and check it out. You can learn a lot, especially when you look at the agents you play and see how the pros play them. But you can pick up on some really cool tips, and I've started doing that actually for Omen in particular. I've started watching the Omen players and saying, okay, how are these guys playing Omen? How can I implement that into my own games? And then it brings that new level of confidence. And once I start making those plays with Omen, well, you know, suddenly I take that into the next game, and then the next game, and I start building on it, and it builds that consistency, that consistency that I've been looking for with my Omen play. And I'm finally feeling like I'm getting to a point now where I really can hang with anybody on Omen. And it's made a world of difference in sort of my win-losses and even in my KDA recently. And guys, I just kind of want to sum things up because I know I talked about a lot in this video, but essentially the gist of the video is that you can gain consistency through confidence. And it's kind of, it's a very cyclical, it's symbiotic. Is that the word? It kind of goes in circles. The more consistent you are, the more confident you'll be, the more confident you'll be, the more consistent, the more confident, or the opposite, right? Very easy for this to go the wrong way. The less confident, the less consistent. The less consistent, the less confident you'll be. And it's one of those things where you have to get on the right path here. So I talked about why it's so hard to be consistent, right? It's so hard to be consistent because there's so many variables that change from game to game, from round to round, whether it's teammates, agents, maps, positions where you play, how your team plays, how the enemy plays, what agents the enemies are playing, and how they're playing them. Everything is changing. This is not your standard 5v5 tac shooter. This one gets crazy. So it's very hard to be consistent. So don't be down on yourself if you are. However, I do believe that if you can build up your confidence, you can be more consistent. And I think I've shown that through my own gameplay, and I've kind of proven it to myself now that one of the best ways to improve your consistency is actually through confidence. Now, how have I improved confidence, right? Because I can't tell you guys what's going to work for you. But for me, playing the game more, first of all, getting rid of that competitive anxiety. I haven't talked about that yet. I used to have serious competitive anxiety. I've gotten rid of that by playing more. I do not care about my rank in the sense if I lose it, I know I'll get it back. I have been practicing in deathmatch a lot more to seriously improve my aim. I actually care about it. I'm putting time in. I'm even doing some aim trainers off stream. And on top of that, I'm also watching the pros. And I'm trying to pick up tips from my Omen play, trying to figure out how to get better at the game. So like I've been saying, all of these things are to improve my confidence when I go into a match. I play better. I build my confidence more. I play more consistently. And if you guys have been looking at some of the posts I've been making on Twitter and on YouTube, I've been showing you guys some of my recent games. And you'll notice that I'm not really going negative anymore. I'm not really having those horrible games anymore. Of course, here and there I will. But overall, I have become a way more consistent player. I think people are starting to notice, so they're asking me more, hey, how do you be more consistent? The truth is, I've just gained confidence. That's it. I literally have just gained confidence. And it was through the things I've been talking about. I think playing the most is definitely the biggest one, but I felt like I wanted to make a video on this. I want to explain that, hey, like a lot of this does come down to confidence. And if you can figure out a way to improve your confidence, you're going to be a more consistent player. If you guys enjoyed the video, I'd love to see you on stream. I stream pretty much every single day at 12 p.m. Eastern. Thanks so much for watching. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time. Take it easy, and peace.